Question 5 says solve the equation x minus 8 times the square root of x plus 13 equals 0, giving your answer in the form p plus or minus q times the square root of r, where p, q and r are integers. That's whole numbers. Something with square root signs in like this and an answer should be suggesting to you a quadratic equation. Within quadratics, you normally get x squareds and x's, not x and root x's. So you've got to do a little trick here. We've got to let x equal y squared. Because if x equals y squared, this is a new letter we introduce, well, the square root of x must be the square root of y squared. And the square root of y squared is just y. So the equation we were given on the paper, which is this, I can rewrite. Instead of x, I can write y squared. And instead of the square root of x, I can write y. And then I can write my plus 13 equals 0. Now that looks like a normal quadratic equation. You've got some y squareds, some y's, and a number, and it equals 0. And you always need to make them equal 0 to make progress with them. And now, because we need to get our answer with square root signs in, that suggests we need to use the formula. So the formula for quadratics, you look at your quadratic, which is written down, sorry, that should be a plus c there. So many y squareds, ay squareds, by's, and c is a number on the end, equals 0. The quadratic equation formula is, here it's y, because that's the letter we're using, minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So if we look at the equation we've got, a is the number of y squareds we've got. So here, a is 1. B is the number of y's we've got. So b is minus 8. And c is the number tacked on the end, and that's positive 13. So now we know those, we need to substitute those numbers into the formula. So y equals minus b. So that's minus 8. Plus or minus the square root of b, which is minus 8 squared. Take away 4 lots of a, lots of c. And the whole thing is divided by 2 lots of a. So, minus minus, that makes a plus. 2 minuses together make a plus. So that's just 8. And then we're going to look at inside the square root sign. Minus 8 squared. Now you need to be really careful here. If you just type in on some calculators negative 8 squared, you will get the answer negative 64, which isn't the answer to what we're trying to do. If I just show you on this calculator here, if we can see this, if I do negative 8 squared, it gives me the answer negative 64. But actually what I need to do, and what you need to do here, is you need to make sure it's not just squaring the 8, but it's squaring the number minus 8. And you've got to put them in a calculator with a negative number in brackets. So minus 8 in brackets squared is 64, not minus 64. Anything squared is always positive. That's one thing that people often get wrong here. So this minus 8 all squared is 64. Then I've got to take away 4 lots of 1, which is 4, times that by 13. That is 52. And then on the bottom, 2 lots of 1, that's 2. So I've got 8 plus or minus the square root of, well, 64 take away 52 is 12. And that's all divided by 2. Now, root 12 we can write a different way. Because 12 is 4 times by 3, that means that root 12 is root 4 times by root 3. And the key thing here was I spotted I could use a square number here as a factor. Because the square root of 4 is just 2. So the square root of 12 is the square root of 4 times the square root of 3, which I can just write down as 2 root 3. So I can continue this question, and I can rewrite it as 8 plus or minus, instead of writing root 12, I can write 2 root 3, and it's all being divided by 2. That means the 8 is being divided by 2, which will give me 4, and the 2 root 3 is divided by 2. Well, that 2 and that 2 will cancel out, so I just get my root 3. and I've got my plus and my minus in there. So I've got 4 plus or minus root 3. Now, my answer that I had to get was P plus or minus Q root R. So I'm getting in the right direction here, but there's one important thing. This is what y is equal to, and the question wasn't about y at all. The question was about x. And remember, we wrote down earlier that x was equal to y squared. And we also wrote down that y was equal to the square root of x. That was what we did earlier. Now we need to convert this y answer into an x answer. So if y is that, which means either 4 minus root 3 or 4 plus root 3, those are answers for y. To get my answers for x, I need to square them both. X is y squared. So it's either 4 minus root 3 squared or 4 plus root 3 squared. We've got to make sure that our answers are in terms of x again, not y. So these things need multiplying together. Because 4 minus root 3 all squared means 4 minus root 3 times by 4 minus root 3. If you multiply these together, you get 4 times 4 is 16. If you times those two bits together, you get minus 4 lots of root 3. Times those bits together, you get another minus 4 lots of root 3. So altogether, that's minus 8 lots of root 3. When you times these two bits together, minus times a minus is a plus, and root 3 times root 3 is 3. So that's what we get down here on the left-hand side of the word or. So that's 19 minus 8 root 3. Then on the right-hand side of the plus, it was 4 plus root 3 all squared. So again, that's times it by itself. When you multiply that out, you'll get 16 plus 8 lots of root 3 plus 3, which is 19 plus 8 root 3. So our two answers do actually look like P plus or minus Q root R. One of them is 19 plus 8 root 3, and the other one is 19 minus 8 root 3. Those are the two answers. You could combine them and write them down as 19 plus or minus 8 root 3. That's fine, because it matches exactly the way they wanted you to present your answer in the question. So the key thing there was you had to remember, because we'd swapped into y, and we couldn't answer the question without doing that, you have to swap back into x again at the end.